It is my argument that it is the natural inclination of the human mind to desire the affection and romantic admiration of the same sex, biologically. Whilst I will not argue the necessity for heterosexual relations, it is my affirmative to prove beyond doubt that homosexual relations should be the norm within platonic and romantic settings. First, let us establish what I mean by the way of gay. By gay, I am referring to any homosexual relation, either man and man, or woman and woman. It is not my desire to disregard multi-sex individuals or those who identify beyond the bounds of traditional genders. I argue, though, that by observing the animal kingdom and human society in kind, that we can come to a conclusion that humans have a biological desire for relation to those in the same societal and sexual group as themselves. This is what I am referring to as gay, and will include any transsexual men, as in the purpose we will consider them men mentally and biologically, and transsexual women, we will consider them women mentally and biologically. My argument first and foremost centers on romantic love. In this context, monogamy will be used, but my theorem can apply the same to polygamous romance. I will continue that platonic relations between the same sex are ideal compared to those of the opposite. Finally, I wish to dissuade any notions one may have about my theorem. This theorem is not meant to be a critique of heterosexual relation or love. Just as in our current society, heterosexual love is considered the norm, yet homosexual love should not be discouraged or immoral. My theorem simply seeks to prove the normative should lie in homosexual love, whilst not disregarding the potential of heterosexual love. Let us examine the foundation of my claim. It is no secret that as children we prefer play and relation between those of our own gender. It is a simplistic view of the world that, whilst evolves, reveals a truth to the biological need and desires of humanity. Let us examine the animal kingdom before our analysis of our society. First, we might examine various evidence indicating same-sex orientation within mammals. Same-sex orientation has long been observed within mammalian species, such as birds, whales, and primates, and is observed even today. Killer whales have been observed partaking in such activities not only as a form of arousal, but as noted by Sanvito and Galimberti, can be observed as a form of social play and interaction, indicating not only a sexual orientation but platonic admiration for same-sex relation. Sanvito and Galimberti, 2022, p. 760. We may extract from this and other sources that homosexual relations, prominently male-male, but not discounting female-female, that homosexual relationships can be an important part of the complex familial and platonic relationships. We may also conclude from further research, Bagemill, 1999, that same-sex play and romance constitutes an important cornerstone of mammal society, allowing adolescents to explore themselves sexually. Rose, 1992, as well as perform a type of play that may become unacceptable as they mature. Such sexual preference points to an inexorable need for same-sex relations, particularly romantic and platonic, in order to develop certain social and cognitive abilities. I do not mean to indicate that the actions of juvenile mammalian sex can be directly related to the experiences of a human, but that same-sex orientation remains prominent and preferred within the animal kingdom and contributes to the sustainability of large pack groups within the wild. Extrapolating from this data, we can begin to observe behavior within humans that is in line with that expected of other mammalian species. One of the most dominant aspects of this nature is the proliferation of homosexual romantic relations within platonic relations, most commonly seen in male-male dominated packs. This use of homosexual romantic undertones, often under the guise of humor, plays in stark similarity to group dynamics of same-sex relations as observed within mammals. This indicates to us numerous things about the natural dynamics of group play within humans, most notably that same-sex play and romance can be considered natural as in a biological instinct, and is to an extent already encouraged socially. This may be countered by the biological need for humans to copulate, with which I may refute that not only has this need not stopped same-sex romance in other species, but it is by virtue of our unique awareness of our instincts that same-sex romance become desirable. Whilst a man may carnal desire a woman, it is without doubt that he will socially desire a mate of the same sex, who will not only please the instinctual group play of same-sex relations, but will socially fulfill the desires of relation with those who one can relate to on a personal and societal level. With my argument defined, we must consider the ramifications and social justifications of the way of gay in contemporary society. We might first consider how our society is to be altered to facilitate these relations whilst maintaining the biological need for copulation. In answer to this, I propose the outer-inner romance that will define the ideal romance between men and women. The outer-inner romance seeks to facilitate a double-pronged approach to romance in which one, the person of an opposite sex, fulfills the carnal desires of the person. This is the inner romance. The second prong will facilitate the social and instinctual needs of the person and will constitute the homosexual romance. This is the outer romance. In example, this two-pronged approach will fulfill both the carnal desires of a heterosexual orientation, which is an irrefutable fact that it is the normative to desire a mate of the opposite sex, whilst fulfilling the social needs of the homosexual orientation and play seen in the wild. This will not only allow for the societal and cognitive needs that we observe in adolescents and adult mammals to develop in our society, but will also rectify several issues within heterosexual romance. If we are to demonstrate this romantic approach in contemporary society, I would illustrate the approach as such. Man A and Man B represent the outer romance. They are two men of similar status and experience, representing the ideal social environment for mutual romantic or platonic love. Their similarity socially and physically lessens not only issues of violence or domination, but as well dissonance in romantic trust and understanding that is prone in heterosexual romance. It is to be noted this is not an indictment of irregular homosexual couples socially or physically. Whilst they may appear irregular, I would argue that it is the natural orientation of gender in society, and that of the mental sex, that triumphs over such differences. Man A and Man B both have a sexual partner of the opposite sex, woman A and woman B, who they copulate with only an ideal to produce children or sexual pleasure, representing the inner romance. Though a male-male romantic relation was used in this example, it is important to note this setup is mirrored for female-female romantic relations. The question must also arise: to what extent may we enable these changes socially? Of the highest priority must be the assorting of genders, whilst those who lie beyond the pale of normative genders can be considered irregular and therefore fall out of this scale. For those who are transgendered, sexual reassignment surgery is of utmost importance. Without such efforts, the societal system of inner-outer romance will fail completely to encapsulate those who would most benefit from it, and will further alienate already outcast groups. Whilst the financial undertaking will be immense, it will be the highest order for healthcare and government to ensure the swift and immediate reassignment of all willing transgendered people of our country. Similarly, it must be encouraged socially that the inner-outer romance become normative within society, whilst not overstepping bounds of monogamy or polyamory of the individual. Whilst the inner-outer romance may seem hedonistic and or counter to monogamy, in practice the carnal pleasure of heterosexual romance will influence little the homosexual love and admiration seen naturally within humans. The role of sexual pleasure in society will ideally become secondary to that of romance, whilst still being destigmatized in contemporary society, allowing for a freer society that retains virtues of mutual love and affection. Conclusively, the Way of Gay Theorem and the intricacies I have outlined herein represent only a small portion of the changes and research into the natural instincts of homosexual relations, but do prove the extent to which these relations are not only natural but necessary to development. It is in hope that further research and the changes of societal views can rectify the failure of romance in our society, and bring about a more autonomous, free, and emotionally stable people.